Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Such a pleasure to be able to speak to you today. Maybe you could just kick off with a brief intro for people who don't know anything about Riddle of Fire. What can they expect when they jump into your film?
Yeah, so I'm Weston Razooli, the writer-director of Riddle of Fire, which is a 16 millimeter neo fairy tale. It's sort of a fairy tale about these three mischievous kids that live in Wyoming who are on this Grimm's fairy tale-esque quest to gather the ingredients to bake a pie for their sick mother. But along the way, they sort of fall into this adventure, misadventures, of sorts that leads them on an epic quest.
And I understand it's your feature debut. Where on earth did you get the original idea for the film? And why this, I guess, really particular genre, tone? What were some of the influences perhaps that led you to make this film?
As a filmmaker, I really desire to make huge, large budget, high fantasy action adventure films, but obviously I couldn't get a budget to do something like that for my first film. So I thought, how could I do something like that with a tiny budget? And so I thought, if I just sort of do that kind of narrative with those sort of characters, but just set it now and do it like make it sort of like the neo Western is to the Western, with this neo fairy tale is, or neo fantasy to the fantasy film, I could get away with doing it for a lot less of a budget. But yeah, I've always loved kid coming of age adventure movies, and I haven't really seen one of recent times that sort of captures that like kind of uncut, sort of dangerous side to like the kind of unsterilized side of, like, I feel that a lot of like older kid adventure movies had, like even like the early Disney movies and movies like Night of the Hunter, even like 30s 30s cinema, like Wallace Beery movies, and stuff like that. And I just kind of wanted to do a kid adventure movie that felt a little dangerous, I guess. Yeah, make the ultimate kid adventure movie as well. Like, these kids have everything I wanted as a kid: dirt bikes, paintball guns, freedom, the food that looks great, and like the ability to kind of do these awesome things like heists and sneaking around and, like, an epic adventure. So yeah, that was kind of the 2 cents on that.
Finding your cast for these young characters was going to be absolutely crucial because it can be hard working with young actors, people who are new to being in front of the camera. How on earth did you find this group of people, and how was it working with them? And looks like you must have had a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so the kids, I had a great casting director in Utah who's cast several large films that I've shot here. He found them all, and they were, of all the auditions though that I saw of tons of child actors, they were the only four that I thought that maybe these could do it. They were the only four I gave callbacks to and met. Each of them sort of had this unique thing where they all seemed like timeless child actors, where they would be kind of at home in an American 1930s movie, like Little Rascals, like or Our Gang, or even like a 90s, American 90s, like Home Alone type movie. So I thought, like, they all had that quality. I think they'd all get along, and they did. The 2 girls were from LA and the 2 boys were from Utah. And then Leo Tipton, who plays Anna Fred, she was my friend. She for a few years, met her in LA, and I wrote that role for her. But yeah, that's kind of the basic to that.
Tell us a little bit about this really sort of specific aesthetic that it's got, this kind of retro look, from the costumes, the sunglasses, like everything about it. And why does that kind of add to the storytelling?
With the costumes, I designed them, and I just sort of, I don't know, I just did what I liked and wanted to see. But I did want them to be timeless, like they don't really fit into a specific era. I don't think they aren't really retro. It's just time, like Converse All-Stars are timeless, like the wife beater that Charlie wears is timeless. But I like the more specific things, like the necklaces that the kids wear, that have the like taxidermied animal claws, and stuff like that. Those were fun to make. And then, yeah, for Petal, like her dress, I wanted her to look like she was out of Picnic at Hanging Rock to sort of give like a fairy type of vibe to her. Yeah, and Freya was like Sarah Connor meets Davy Crockett or something. Yeah, just timeless, cool designs. Yeah.
Tell us about the shoot itself. I mean, I guess it's all going to be a learning curve, it being your first feature, and then the fact that you are filming on 16mm, working with kids, being out, in the wilderness. What were some of the highlights and perhaps, some of the challenging moments?
It was an extremely challenging shoot, for sure, but it was also very fun and rewarding too. Yeah, classic problems would happen, and I would get sort of, a location would fall through in the morning, or so I would hear, the news of that the next day. But then the kids would get to set, and they would be so excited and so happy, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is. And they would kind of like, give me the energy to keep going, and so have fun with it and everything. But yeah, it was I mean, I shot in my hometown, in my home area in Utah. So it felt very, I don't know, like coming full circle. And because I used to have adventures similar to them growing up, and being able to sort of come back and film a weird version of that was very satisfying, I guess. The Hall of Fortunes, though, that sequence when they go to the Hall of Fortunes, which is this sort of weird artist community warehouse in the third act of the film, that was really tough because there was no air conditioning. It was like the hottest summer in Salt Lake City, and yeah, it was very, very hot there.
And, what do you ultimately hope people will take away from watching it? And I guess, like you said at the beginning, kind of there is something quite magical about taking people back to their childhoods and, it not being in the super sanitized way, kind of going on this adventure with these characters, with these kids. What do you hope people come out the cinema feeling?
Yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, I really wanted to create a very like potent, magical, vibey journey that you can really give yourself over to and immerse yourself into this stylized childlike world and just kind of go back to a version of childhood for 2 hours. Yeah, I mean, also like I try to keep it. My characters are pretty optimistic and adventurous, and also like I try to make characters that are very good at what they do, and are confident, and sort of like with Alice and the boys and even Anna Freya, like they're all very confident in their goals and their abilities and everything. And I hope to kind of inspire people to be, I don't know, more confident and more like gung-ho with doing things and not doubt themselves, and just kind of like I want to give people like inspirational characters, because I kind of needed those growing up, like classic like Luke Skywalker, Indiana Jones. That's something that I want to do in my movies, I guess, is make these inspirational characters, with an edge too, but
And I know it's sort of done its rounds on the film festival circuit and had such a phenomenal response. I mean, it really seems to have connected with audiences. What kind of does that mean to you? I mean, I know we're not always in the game necessarily for accolades and things like that, but it must also be very vindicating of your efforts when you see such a phenomenal response from people.
Yeah, it's been so lovely and so nice and so fulfilling. Obviously, especially Cannes, the premiere was the dream scenario. The whole cast came, friends, family. I mean, it was really like a huge moment in my life. And then, yeah, the whole festival run was very fun. I got to travel the world, and it was very, very, very fulfilling and very exciting and very inspiring for the next film.
And do you know what that's going to be? And what might you sort of take from this experience into your next film? And, I guess you're working your way up to this big budget.
Yeah.
Film.
Yeah. The next film, I recently finished the script for the next one. Goal is to shoot next spring. But the takeaways from this, I mean, there's a million, you learn a million things on every film shoot. The next film is quite different. So okay, if you're gonna have motorcycles in your movie, have a motorcycle mechanic on set every day. Yeah.
Good top tip. Well, that's been wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. Huge congratulations on the film, and I can't wait for everyone else who hasn't seen it yet to see Riddle of Fire. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It was great
So
talking
nice
to
to
you.
chat to you. Thanks a lot. Cheers.